Hello and welcome back to another episode of We Have Been Watching Podcast. I am Martin. I'm here with Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello.
Today we're back to Indian cinema because we're learning every day is a school day. It's Bahubali, and I will apologise now for our pronunciations of Bahubali, Baahubali. We're going to make a mess of it. But first of all, Rob, should we do some trailers?
Yeah.
Trailer time. Let's go. So, interview with our vampire. I don't know.
Interview with the Vampire. The
Okay.
Vampire Chronicles, was it called, or something? Its full title. So I saw the trailer for this the other day. It's weird because we only mentioned this in the last episode when we talked about Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then seeing the trailer for this pop up and think I didn't even know they were remaking this, starting from scratch again.
Yeah.
So it looks similar vibes to the film, I guess. I don't know. It's really hard to judge it. It feels a little bit pointless because Brad Pitt, though, I mean, it's not like an amazing actor, but he's got movie star quality.
Yep.
And Tom Cruise is excellent as Lestat. So anything with watching this, I think, like, well, it doesn't look too bad, but
What's the? Is it a
pointless.
prequel or a sequel?
No. It just looks like they're, to me, from the trailer, it looks like they're just adapting the book again.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I guess there are, there's probably people who are like hardcore. Is it Anne Rice? Is it hardcore?
Yeah.
Anne Rice. Excuse me. Hardcore Anne Rice fans who were like, no, that film wasn't right. It overlapped. They missed too many things out of it and all that. So I guess there always is for some. Will you watch this when it comes out streaming?
I will. I think this will be one of these shows like Resident Evil, the recent Resident Evil show on Netflix, where it's kind of interesting because I read the Interview with the Vampire books. I mean, back in the day when they were massively popular, I read them all, and then looked forward to the films, which got progressively worse. And it's one of those things where you think, oh, I might give this a try, and then when it comes out, then the reviews are kind of negative. So I feel like, can I be bothered? So I still feel like with Resident Evil, I wouldn't mind watching it. I wouldn't mind watching an Interview with the Vampire TV show, but unless it's got great reviews, I've got a backlog of
plenty of things to watch
of other good things.
I quite fancy watching Interview with the Vampire again.
Yeah, the movie's good. I've always liked the movie.
Right, Rob. So we are going to talk about Bahubali now. Now we came into this, didn't we? We watched RRR, and then some kindly YouTube watchers said we need to watch this. And of course, this is an S.S. Rajamouli. I'm sorry for pronouncing that wrong. This is one of his earlier films, isn't it? Because he did RRR. So Netflix, we chose the correct language. Is it Kannada language or is it Tamil language? I can't remember which one it was now. But stuck it on. I've got to say, Rob, literally within the first 5 minutes of this, I was like, oh, this is way tonally different from KGF. Because KGF was the last film, which was quite dark and gritty and it's a
bit different. It's a bit different to RRR, I think, as well.
Yeah,
isn't it?
So,
it's.
Come on, Rob, give us the very brief storyline of what this is about.
It's
massive, isn't it? As well, it's a massive epic.
The premise is to set the scene is, I suppose, there's a woman's being chased with a baby that must be of some importance, we don't know what, and gets rescued by a tribe. And as he grows up, he feels this yearning to climb up the waterfall and see what's up there. And
it's massive, isn't it? It's massive.
And he ends up getting embroiled in these kind of local wars with these sort of rebels against this baddie king in this massive city, and it gets embroiled with what's going on there. It's got a lot. That's kind of the gist of it. Really, just gets embroiled in it. There's stuff there which it reminds you of. Again, it's like these kind of sort of myths and legends, isn't it? Where so and so goes off on an adventure, like Jason the Argonautsy type things.
Yes,
and then
that's a good call. Yeah.
Someone finds out that someone actually was their mother that accidentally killed their brother, or their brother betrayed them, and all those kind of myth and legends. Because I looked up to see if this was actually based on a real, loosely based on fact of an actual character, and they've just built a myth around it. But I don't think I don't think it is from what I only had a quick glance on Wikipedia, to be honest.
So again, we've got these larger than life characters. Now the first thing I thought was in KGF, the actor Yash, he was absolutely ripped, wasn't he? Whereas this actor, I'm afraid I didn't write his name down, who plays Sivu, isn't it? Is his name? He actually isn't as ripped, but I'd say he's well toned. So he's like an athlete rather than a bodybuilder, isn't he?
He's. I mean, they're still ridiculously.
They're still ripped, isn't they? Yeah.
Yeah, good looking and tough, but it is not quite as unstoppable as the last two characters we've seen in RRR and in KGF, particularly KGF. So in here, you do feel there's a little bit of a sense that he isn't going to succeed in every single fight, and he isn't going to be able to pick up a tank and throw it over his head. Yeah. You know, he does make mistakes, he does fall, he does bleed. So he's still a tough guy, but he's got a little bit more vulnerability than I think we've seen in the last couple of films.
He's absolutely... I thought he was likeable instantly out the gate. Like the first couple of times you see me think, what a nice guy. Because like he's trying to help his mum, isn't he? Fill up a shrine,
he moves the shrine.
And he's trying to go up. He's trying to get up this waterfall. And again, now this must be a thing of Indian cinema. And listeners, if it is, I love it, and I'm looking for it. It's that kind of. There's a song, isn't there, about the character. So it's like this guy, he's doing this, he's as strong as a lion, he can climb a great wall, and he can do all that.
There's a few times it does it in this, isn't it, where it's I
really like it as exposition as well. It's really clever and good.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. I mean, we've seen two films by the same director, but we're seeing something similar here, where there's this trend of storytelling through music and having these little musical intervals, because this has like a little music scene in the middle, which I kind of thought was a bit jarring out of place. I thought, hang on, how are they going to explain this now? They've all got different costumes, but I think it was meant to be more of a dream sequence.
Yes.
So I didn't think, okay, I'll forgive it now, because at first I thought, this doesn't fit. This is a bit bonkers.
Rob, if I can monologue just for a minute here out of my notes, there was quite a lot of comedy in there, which I really liked. It's quite
I didn't think so. Really?
But yeah, there's quite a lot. So, for example, there's a bit where he instantly falls in love with this freedom fighter. What's her name now? Avantika, right?
Yeah.
And he falls in love with her, and she's out on these missions, and he's in a tree, isn't he, above her, or he's hiding in some water, and he keeps painting her hand, and I'm like, what is this guy doing? You know, it's really weird. And then a bit later,
unwanted attention. I was disgusted by it.
Yeah, right. Fair enough. Right. But this is something you mentioned before. She's an absolute badass, because you mentioned before, are we going to see any badass females?
Yes.
Well, she kicks ass like no one's business. She's super good.
I watched some of this with my daughter, actually, funnily enough. I put it on, and she was sort of knocking around in the room, and a new way of telling if a film's good now, the daughter test.
Oh, yeah.
And she was quite enjoying it, and she was having a bit of a laugh at some of the bits which seemed a bit silly, and you think, is that meant to be intentionally funny, like he's doing the tattoo and stuff like that? And
so
yeah, I was saying to her that actually this is good, actually, because she feels kind of...
She holds her own.
Tough and holds her own. But...
Wait a minute.
Only to a certain degree, and then he turns up.
Yes.
And this is what my daughter's observation, actually, where she's saying it's this kind of... You think of old Disney films where...
Very much, yeah, I know where you're going with
Disney
this,
films, the Disney press, all they need is a handsome prince to come and save them.
Yeah, it is, I'm afraid, isn't it? So she's a complete badass.
And what my daughter said, this reminded... She said it looked like it was going to be a bit more sort of Mulan-y, where like she's got like a Mulan-type character, especially with a bit with the avalanche in it. It's very Mulan, that is.
Yes.
But then it feels like... like a bit like Mulan and Brave, you've actually got a strong female character here, but then... still needs the prince to come along and say, "What, you're on a mission? Oh, I'll do your mission for you." And it's just like, she's pushed to the side for the second half of the film. And I really hope she's in the second one a lot more, because second half of the first film is big flashback, and you end up kind of missing her.
Well, the entirety of the second one is mostly flashback as well. So, but then I've got on my notes here. He does this thing, doesn't he? And now again, look, it is that. It's possibly... Well, it's not possibly. He's completely misogynistic. And they're having a fight, aren't they? And he does this thing where he snips her top off, and she's just like a sports bikini top. Then he does something, and he unwraps her skirt, and then she spins back into it.
It's like a flirty dance thing, which I think... And I don't know... that isn't there something similar to that, or almost like that at the start of Shang-Chi, when it's like the romance is built through like a sort of a dancing, flirting
fight, and then he gets some like berries, doesn't he? And he sort of touches her face and puts some makeup on her. Now, look, as I'm describing it, it does sound really pervy, and it sounds really.
My daughter's comment was, "Is this a makeover show?"
Yeah, right. But actually, I've got to be honest, I was like,
well, actually, we've not said to people, anyone who has no idea what this film is, that in terms of like the setting, it's kind of like it's
dreamy.
It's set in the past, so it's more. It's swords and catapults and all that kind of bows and arrows and that sort of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more you sort of like.
But you're right.
I know it's not fantasy in terms of there's no elves and trolls in it, but
it is fantasy, isn't it?
There's moments that reminded me of, and not Lord of the Rings so much, but there's some bits which I thought were a bit silly. It actually reminded me of some of the silliness in maybe a little bit of Lord of the Rings, but in The Hobbit, you know, when like Legolas is doing those silly things like he's running up bricks as they're falling. Or even when like Gimli just runs down at the Helm's Deep and knocks everybody out of the way. There's moments like that in this, isn't there? Because there's like big battles of people with swords and spears on horseback, and it's just
spinning.
If you imagine those slightly more the more over the top, borderline out of place moments in Lord of the Rings, and ramp those up to 10, that's what this does.
It's like Aladdin, isn't it? As well, it's got that kind of feel. But I put on here that what I thought was good was that they're having this romantic fight stroke falling in love scene with a song that was really nice, and then they sort of go into like a frozen forest, don't they? And the sound detail on this, because they're hitting these icicles and they're falling off, it's really good, really good sound quality.
You know what? At this point, this film reminded me of. This is going to seem like a really strange thing to point out. You know, in like Roger Moore James Bond films.
Yes.
I always noticed and I noticed this when I was young actually, that you know when they obviously overdub. They do additional dialogue, don't they? A lot of the time the actors film, you know, the bits on afterwards. Yeah. And I always felt like, if you ever watch Roger, now I've pointed it out, this is like Tamara Morrison's teeth for you know.
Extra
pointed it out.
loud.
Yeah. and these are doing it like, so it throws someone on the grass and the grass cracks like it's glass. Yeah. And then the guys go, ugh, all the time. And they're just being thrown around all the time.
So,
and is it just trying to show that they're not all dead?
I think so.
So they're just going, oof.
So, up until this point, it is all sort of fantasy, you know, dream-like stuff. Yeah, there's a bit, isn't there, where they're fighting some soldiers on a mountain and they sledge your toboggan down on a half.
The budget let it down there.
It did.
Quite badly.
That wasn't great.
You know, with this... The budget, though, I looked at, because I was curious how expensive this was compared to American films. You know, like American films now, like $200 million easy all the time. In dollars term, this cost $28 million.
Really?
And it was the most expensive Indian film at the time. Now, for $28 million, they're getting
amazing.
A lot of... Cause there are bits like that, some of that CGI stuff, especially with some of the swarming armies at the back, at the end, that look really bit dodgy, to be honest. Yeah. They look worse than the Lord of the Rings orcs, and that's an older film. But...
For that money,
some of the city stuff and some of the backgrounds and the costumes and the extras and everything. $28 million.
Rob, forget the fact that it's a foreign film for us. I honestly was sitting there, mouth agape at times, at these pure. Now again, it's half extras, half CGI, massive cities, giant gold statues. And
but the mid shots though, you can see in them. You can really spot the difference between the CGI crowds and. There's a bit like when he's running towards the camera on a horse, and there's characters being knocked out of the way, and they're clearly CGI because you think, well, an actor wouldn't do that. But there's other bits when he's running along, hitting people with a sword, and the stuntmen are falling on the floor, and the screen is full of extras. You can see that they're all people in costume, all battling away and stuff. So big on extras, aren't they? These Indian films.
I don't know how they choreograph it. It's so well done, so well done.
I know the city, obviously, when they're showing a swooping shot and stuff like that, obviously the CGI is a construct there. But when things like when the lady there's a bit where he has to go and rescue this lady. Yes. Won't go into the reason why he has to or who she is. But
her name is Devasina. I've written that
and she's chained up. But the bits with her, it's like, well, that all around them is a big set, isn't it?
Yeah.
they have built some big sets for this.
And again, I don't know if this is going to be true of all women in Indian films, but she's taking no shit off anyone, isn't she? So the king's like, yeah, I've got you locked up, and then she's like, whatever, you're not going to break me. And she's not. She's iron-willed, isn't she?
Collecting one stick at a time. I'm going to burn him on this.
Yeah, I'm going to burn him on this. He's dead. He's dead.
Yeah, it's strong female again.
Then,
see, I'm loving it now, seeing these stronger females.
Very much so. I've written in my notes, fight against the king's son in the rain. There's lots and lots of slow motion fight scenes. I love all this stuff. I absolutely love it. Do you know what I do love? And I didn't write his note. Is it Katapa? He's like the older...
Kapata. Is it Kapata or Katapa? It's Kapata, isn't it? Yeah.
He's like the older sort of man-at-arms, isn't he? He's like the...
Man-at-arms, is that you?
Sorry, yeah, like He-Man.
The He-Man reference.
He's like the general, isn't he? Or like the... Well, he's actually a slave, isn't he? But he's like an uncle.
He's really interesting because he's working on behalf of the baddie king because he kind of has to, because he's made a promise. So he's so loyal to keeping his promises. Yeah, that was interesting. It is Katapa. It's T then the P, so it's Katapa.
I've put on here and always a massive favourite of mine. So the sort of later part of this film, he's there. He's in the sort of giant city, isn't he? And they're talking about this invasion, aren't they? That happens. So you hear about this massive invasion by these. I don't know what they are, like Mongol warriors.
Just over halfway through, it suddenly turns into, it's about a 2.5 hour film.
Yeah.
And then the last hour of it really is like a big flashback of the main character's sort of dad and granddad, mainly his dad.
Yeah.
Played by the same actor, and it's just a massive. I mean, yeah, it's like Return of the King, isn't it? That's the only point
it really is.
It's a battle on that sort of scale of tons of like barbarian bad guys, tons of people on horseback, and massive fight. Another trope that I'm finding so far, which I absolutely love, and it is like our main hero covered under 10 guys. Then he sort of stands up and he throws them all off, and they're obviously all on wires, but it looks great. I've put on here motivational war speech. I love a good motivational speech. It's apt to go. And I've also got the Queen Mother. So this is again, it's in the flashback. So this. Excuse me. Your dog's giving a review of the film.
All the extras, the actors, they're all in bright colours. Really, even though it's a horrible city and it's ruled by an evil king, even the king is wearing like gold armour, and he's got the king's dad. He's got that guy he's got a disabled arm, hasn't he? I quite liked him actually. He was a real bad guy, wasn't he? He's got a really big moustache and a proper moustache twirler. But all in all, it was a really nice film for me. And I've got to be honest, as soon as I watched it, I'm like, right, I'm watching number 2 tomorrow. So I've watched number 2 already, because
I felt like, when with KGF, where I just said, well, I feel like I want to break from that and watch a couple of other things.
Yeah. But
with this, I do feel like I want to get started on the second one fairly soon, actually.
Yeah. Spoilers, it's more of the same. If you like the first one. Would it be fair to say, Rob, this is the Indian Lord of the Rings? If that's a fair comment to say.
It's a funny comparison, because in the sense it's not fantasy in that sense, is it? It's not, because it's not trolls and all that kind of jazz or magic.
What's that film? Is it not like Troy or something like that? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's not that. Yeah, that's a good comparison, because it's not gritty like Gladiator, and it's not quite as fanciful as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or like we said, we're comparing this to Kung Fu. You say, oh, it's ridiculous that he can do this, but then look, you've accepted that in Kung Fu films for years, so it's not that ridiculous.
Absolutely.
I think the second half, the big battle, that was like that half an hour battle in Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. It felt very much like that. The stuff before that feels like you say, it's a bit more sort of like that kind of simple, like an Aladdin sort of thing, really, with bits of backstories and people double crossing each other. This feels like a myth and legend sort of classic story, really. It made me feel like it was based on a real legend, possibly.
Do you think, and this is probably a bit unfair to say this, but do you think there's a little homage to 300 in this? There's definitely some instances of our main character wading his way in slow motion and sped up again in slow motion, some Zack Snyder ish, but
Yeah,
has this been
maybe.
going on for years before Zack Snyder was doing it?
I mean, this was 2015, so it would have been after 300, and certainly after Lord of the Rings. So maybe it's Indian cinema trying to do something on that sort of scale. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, even some of this little slow-mo shots where the characters are almost silhouetted, and with the sandy background and that kind of everything's got like an orangey red filter to it. That does make it look very much like 300.
You mentioned earlier about some of the special effects, and did you notice at the start there was a quite big disclaimer saying no animal at all was harmed? They're all CGI.
And the word CGI appear in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen.
No, I didn't notice that.
What? You watched that 2.5-hour film and you've not noticed it?
Rob, I did not know that at all. I was so into it.
Well,
I'm going to watch it again.
Not when he's riding on a horse.
Yeah.
But you know, when he's like, someone's punching an elephant. Yeah, someone punches an elephant in this film.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things. Or a bison was being killed, and bottom left-hand corner, the letter CGI appear, and I googled that because I was curious about that, and apparently it's one of these rules from the for Indian cinema that to show that animals aren't hurt, it does have to have CGI in the bottom left-hand corner to say that this is a real animal, and the anti-smoking adverts at the start. That's the things they have to do. Well,
I never. You know what, I was that into this film, I didn't even spot that. But going back to the CGI, yes, in some places you can tell the budget isn't there, but it didn't actually ruin it for me. I was into it. Like, for example, in Lord of the Rings, the amount of money that cost, I hate Legolas surfing on his shield, that kind of thing, right? Whereas in this, I'm like, I know. Well, I wasn't actively thinking that I know there's not as much budget, but you know there's not as much budget.
Yeah. I suppose when you watch, if you watch like a big Disney production like a Star Wars, and there's a bad special effect in it, you think, how has that got through when this film costs a fortune? Or like the dodgy CGI on Justice League on Superman's mouth and all that kind of thing, where you just think, how is this?
What about Mandalorian? What about Boba Fett bikers?
There's things where you just think, how has this got past someone? With this, it's more like if I watch. Well, I already mentioned Jason the Argonauts. If I watch Jason the Argonauts now, I'm not going to be watching it going, those skeletons look rubbish, because you just accept, okay, this is the budget, and you just accept that it's doing what it can with the budget and the special effects it's got. Really, the fact that I still can't get over this is 28 million. I just think what the director has given you for 28 million there, this massive epic. It's like,
now I'll be interested to see what the second one's budget was. I'll be interested to look at. Go on then, Rob. So how many charming smiles? Because the main actor, he's got a smile that can light up a room, hasn't he?
How many beautiful girls standing in the middle of a waterfall?
Oh, I fell in love with every girl in this as well. Do you know what? I absolutely loved it. For me, I'm going to say 8, bordering on 9 at the minute, because I think
I'm a little bit low. I'm saying a 7 maybe.
It's nice actually, because when you watch these films that are not our natural, they're not in our natural sort of language, are they? They're dubbed films. You watch it, 2.5-hour film, excuse me, and you think, right, there's a second film, and you're either going to think, oh, okay, I need to put 2.5 hours to watch another. I really wanted to watch the next one. I was gagging to watch the next one, and that was a good feeling that it did that.
What I like, I've always felt like this is going to seem like a bit of a reaching comparison here, but I've always quite liked films and stories when they're set in a world that isn't my own.
Yes.
So, like Star Wars is a fully realised world, or Lord of the Rings is a fully realised world, or Blade Runner is a fully realised future world, and it feels solid, and you feel like they've put their homework in and making sure everything all makes sense. Even Harry Potter, even though the main bit's in our world, but the magic world side of it, I think it's full. And this appeals to me in that way, because it's set in the past, but it's in a country, culture, I've got no connection with. So it's as much as an alien world to me, really, rather more so than a story just set in the past, because the language is different, the styling of the buildings is different, the weaponry is different to what I'm used to watching in Western English or American similar films, like you say, like comparing it to Troy or any of those sort of films. Or I'm thinking like,
I would say, you know, you and me, Rob, we watch all sorts of stuff. Like The Green Knight was divisive amongst a lot of people. I would say this is a good film for anybody to watch if you can watch subtitles. I know some people don't like subtitles.
Yeah, I would say if I wanted out the three we've watched, if I wanted someone who's never watched, you know, if I wanted to try and get someone on a similar journey that we're on at the minute, I would say R&R is the one that's going to grab your attention in terms of full-on crazy entertainment, and this one probably second. But I think if you do like this kind of Gladiator, Lord of the Rings, if that's your bag and you like those kind of swords and sandals, they used to call them, didn't they? Sword and sandal epics. Then I think you'd like it. Yeah,
definitely so. Definitely so. Very good. Cool. Rob, we've got a couple of minutes left. Do you want to have a quick chat about X?
Yeah, so I saw this a while back, it feels like. But when I was talking about the prequel trailer that's coming out, I forgot what that's called already.
The last couple of episodes, it's called Pearl, isn't there? And you said to me, you need to watch X. It's good. So I did. What a fantastic film. It's really good, isn't it? So, very brief summary is 1979, this group of people go to like an old farm out in the woods to film a porno. There's an old couple living there who are kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this.
and both creepy as hell.
And they're creepy as hell. And then murder ensues, doesn't it? Really, really good. I think you mentioned it's got the young woman out of Pitch Perfect in it, in a role definitely not like Pitch Perfect. The main character, Maxine, who's gonna also play Pearl, I guess she is. She was hypnotic. Everyone in there is really, really good. There's
name's Mia Goth. Did you twig, or had I given the game away, that she's playing dual roles in this film?
If you hadn't have said anything, I wouldn't have known. So I didn't know because you told me. But you can tell. You can tell it's somebody wearing a lot of heavy makeup rather than an older actor.
I thought that. I thought,
and the husband as well.
Couple, the old couple are clean. The actors aren't that old, but the idea of, I mean, it kind of makes sense for having the dual role, because the way she's sort of seeing herself in the younger girl, and that's kind of what the old lady's kind of a bit creepy around her. Yeah, it's just it's a bit of a sort of more of a lo-fi. It's not like Texas Chainsaw in the sense that it's, you know, people being chainsawed up. But in terms of having the 70s setting, small cast, small location,
the colour of the film as well,
it feels like that. It's not trying to be postmodern, clever horror at all.
Yeah, it felt like quite a lot of set. It's not a long film, is it? 1 hour 40. It did feel like we'd got well into it, and I thought, are there going to be any murders in this? And suddenly, bang, and they're off, aren't they? And then suddenly, it all kicks off. There's a very, very tense scene where the main character goes for a swim in a lake, doesn't she? And you see an aerial shot, and she's slowly drifting back to the jetty, and there's a crocodile behind her. And I'm like, oh my god, you know, that was good. I really, it has got that kind of, how can I word it? You know, is it Ready or Not? Has got that kind of sassy, kind of funky, cool vibe to it. Not all the way through, but nearer the end, with your main character. That was very good, where she's sort of like trying to escape. Very, very good. And then you got the police, haven't you? Because the film starts with the police finding the murder scene. Then it's like, what, 48 hours earlier, and then it catches up at the end, doesn't it? the cop saying stuff. There was a big sort of like, moment all the way through. You've got this TV program playing here and there, haven't you? And there's this evangelist talking about, sorry, we are spoiling this film, aren't we, Rob? This evangelist talking about sins of sex and all these things. Did he catch that? Did he catch that right?
Yeah.
Good. A really good. Sorry, I don't want to spoil it too much more. Really, really good horror. Very good horror. It's creepy. It's weird. It's very rude. Sex. It's got a lot of sex in it.
Nothing supernatural about it, really. It's not like, you know, it's not supernatural horror. It's just crazy people killing people.
Yeah.
It's more of a, it's a slasher, they call that, don't they? It's a slasher horror.
Yeah. Speaking of supernatural horror, I've watched 2 this week. I've watched The Black Phone and Enchanted. No, not Enchanted. Incantation on Netflix. My son heard it and said, "This is the scariest film you're ever going to watch." So
was it? Are you going to tell me about that now or next time?
Talk about So I've got a couple of minutes. Incantation is...
I've never heard of this.
No, it's a Netflix film. It's I think it's from Taiwan or Korea. I'll have to check Netflix again. This woman, something happened to her, which is checked out, and it's a backstory. Something happened to her, and she had to give up her kid. 6 years later, she's been through rehab and everything, and she's trying to re-adopt her child back. The kid seems a bit weird. They go back to her house, and it's filmed. You know when they film these Asian horrors, and even like a normal house seems weird and creepy, and the lighting, it's the lighting of like corridors, isn't it? And then the lights flicker off, and then basically some stuff goes on, and then it's all in flashback. And basically 6 years ago, her and her boyfriend and their mate, they go to this family reunion thing, and there's like this ritual to keep this curse.
Just the IMDb says,
yeah.
6 years ago, she was cursed after breaking a religious taboo.
That's it.
Now she must protect her daughter from the consequences of her actions.
Yeah. It was good. It was basically like Blair Witch. It was like that. There's a couple of jump scares. There was one jump scare that really made us jump a lot. Very talky, very lights flicking off. Oh, I'm going to turn the light on and off. Lights come on, and nothing there. So some fake outs. It was good. It was quite scary. It wasn't the scariest film in the world. And I watched The Black Phone, which I want to talk about in depth, Rob. That was better. That was a better film.
I want to see Black Phone, so I'm going to try and get that watched before next week, I think.
Yeah, we'll talk. Incantation. Watch it if you like Asian horror. It was good. I don't think it was the scariest thing I've ever watched, but it's still pretty good. Say a 7 out of 10. That was good. Right, Rob, should we wrap it up there then?
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you for joining us this week. We'd love to hear your comments about Bahubali 1, and I think in the coming weeks we're going to talk about Bahubali 2. And again, thank you if you recommended it to us. That's great. Keep them recommendations coming, because I love it. You can email us. It's wehavebeenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com. Over on Twitter, it's @WHBWpodcast, and Instagram, We've Been Watching Podcast. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Bye bye.